What was your childhood like in India? Do you have some memories, some favorite dishes, like cuisines and games?
So yeah, I mean, I grew up in the national capital, so New Delhi, of course, and oh, favorite. I would love, of course, just reminded me of mangoes. It's a
Those are
mango season.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. And childhood was good, like a very, very, normal childhood. I come from
Mhm.
a very, very educated family. So reading was a huge part of my, growing up. My grandmother would, ensure that I get books, and then she would
Mhm.
ensure that, and at that time, the books were really expensive back home. So, she
Yeah.
would ensure that she would buy me those colored books. Three Little Pigs was the first one she got me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had to kind of get back to her with the synopsis, and then
Mhm.
summary, and if you didn't do it you wouldn't get the next one.
Mhm.
uh, then I had a younger sibling, who was born when I was 4.5, so she had medical problems, genetic medical issues.
Mhm.
She still has them. So that's when I think you realize that life is not all hunky dory, and there's something which is called fragility of life. And you
Mhm.
know I think that was something that was introduced very, very early in my childhood. The visits to the hospital, my
Mhm.
parents struggled to obviously figure out what is it. Back then the medical science was not that great. So
Mhm.
all of that, and so the visits to the hospital, seeing people suffer. I remember. So, the question as to, oh, why, who am I? Why am I here? Which usually
Mhm.
steps in during a
Yeah.
midlife crisis, are probably gotten too early
Yeah.
in my lifetime.
Mhm.
And but yeah, regular childhood. I was a very shy kid,
Mhm.
would be buried in the books. I would read a lot. And I remember I came across one of my grandmother gifted it to my father, a copy of a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. So it's
Mhm.
a beautiful book about life, various
Mhm.
relationships, and it's very profound. So anytime you read in your life, any phase of life, it has very different meanings to the same thing. Like he talks about children, he talks about marriage. So I remember when I read that, I was like, uh-oh. So, I remember my English teacher telling me, do you even get it? I said, I understand it, but I don't. It was
Yeah.
uh, it was very high EQ. I just couldn't get it at that time.
Mhm.
And yeah, all of that. And it was, life was happening. But at the same time, I do remember having visions of, dreams of goddesses. One of the goddess, when I was scared at night. And but when you're a child, and until, in fact, I went to college, medical college, I didn't realize that it is just not everybody who has these experiences. You
Mhm.
feel everybody is having these. So for me, it was a normal, I remember my favorite place was the toilet. I would go to the toilet and have those one-to-one conversations with God. I mean,
Mm.
oh, okay, you're there. I saw you. I was scared. Da, 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 da. And it just, so I thought, maybe that's just a common childhood everybody
Yeah.
has.
Yeah.
And yeah, so life went on, and you go on. And then, I decided to go to, I was doing my literature, and then suddenly, I see this ad in the newspaper and says, bachelor's in physical therapy. And
Mhm.
okay, so we need to do something professional. Let's go for a professional course. So we call them up, and the seats are all exhausted. But by then,
Mm.
my faith, had reached a point where the conversations with God were out of the washroom. Now they would be to the temple, which was nearby. I personally now feel, Bernadette, this is not coming from this lifetime, because a child of all of 13, 14, walking
Mhm.
barefoot to the temple, wanting to sit there just, next to one of
Mhm.
the gods that I really, I mean, again, I'm not religious, but for me, it's the symbol. So it's not a deity,
Yeah.
but it's a symbol of, you know, uh,
Mhm.
energy in the universe.
Mhm.
So, and how that got introduced was, when my sister was born, how people say, oh, you need to pray to God so that she has a longer life, she has a healthy life.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, there is somebody called God who would
Yeah.
listen and people talk to.
Yeah.
So again, a child's, you know, story
Yeah.
of how the world exists. And
Mhm.
I remember the admissions had finished. So I remember going to one of the, and I was very upset. So I went to one of the other temples, which is mainly for the Sikhs, because you do not
Mm.
have any crowd there. I knew. So I went there and I was praying. And then I was, I remember I had tears in my eyes. And I saw two dicky birds come from nowhere. There was no window there. So
Mm.
I do now, in the hindsight, know that that was when the prayers were answered.
Mhm.
And I stopped crying. And I remember somehow we figured out that the owner of the college was a Sikh. And
Mm.
somehow I found myself there. So fast forward, I'm sitting in the college being dropped on that day. There's a room for prayers there. I sit there and, I hear a very loud voice saying, you'd asked for it, it's been granted.
Wow.
That's when I realized I'm sitting in a college owned by a Sikh gentleman. I'm
Mhm.
sitting in front of their holy book. This is exactly where I had gone that day to pray, where
Mm.
the dicky birds had appeared,
Mhm.
which was not where I usually go.
Yeah.
So now that one sided conversation had gone into two sided.
Mm. Wow, that's really cool. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
No, no, no. Carry on. Please ask
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, growing up as a child, did your parents or people around you accepted what you were seeing, your gifts?
I never spoke about it, Bernadette, until you will not believe. I did not speak about it until I was in my late 20s.
Oh, wow.
It's only when I did not realize that this is something specific only to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
I, you know how it is. You feel everybody goes through the same thing.
Yeah.
It's only when I read one of the books by Dr. Brian Weiss, where he talks about, one of his um, clients going into regression and passing on channeling messages,
Hmm.
is when I realized, uh-oh, so you are different. What you're experiencing is different, and the world is not going to take it easily.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And I do think while people I've helped, there are a lot of youngsters, people around me, they come and tell
Hmm.
my parents, but I do not think, I think they just don't get it. And I get it as well. I mean, if a scientist was to come and talk about his, research to me, I wouldn't get it either.
Yeah.
Right? It's not ABC that everybody studies it and they get
Hmm.
it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. I think I had and continue to have a very similar experience to yours. Because I was born open as a child, seeing stuff and things that are just not in this world. And I continue to experience the same today. And I've read that book that you mentioned, Many Lives, Many Masters. It
Absolutely.
is
There
mind
you
blowing
go.
and fascinating. And I've seen so many past lives. And
Really?
yeah, when you
Really?
know, you know.
Am I surprised that I'm here? You connected with me,
No,
and
I'm not surprised. My guides, they do this all the time.
it's why, the other day I was speaking to somebody and they're like, uh, this is why I wanted you. I said, you know what?
Mhm.
When you ask the universe for something and it lays out something for you, you do
Yeah.
not doubt it. You know it's
Yeah.
taken care of. So
Mm.
you need to reach that level of faith and surrender, that
Yep.
it is all laying out for you, not against you.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't, you say it and you just leave it and just kind of
Hmm. Hmm.
flow.
Yeah. So was there ever a time that you questioned or was scared of what was happening to you?
I was never scared. I then in the medical college is when I started hearing more,
Mm.
seeing as well.
Yeah.
And I remember they would ask me at midnight to accompany them to the washroom. Me, I am really tiny,
Mm.
like really tiny. And I now wonder, what did they think? What were they thinking? How was I going to protect them? But somehow, while, in our entire
Mm,
group of friends, I was the baby, but yet when it came down to going down at midnight to the toilets, they would ask me
mm,
to go accompany them. I don't know why it was there. I never spoke
mm,
about my experiences to anybody at that time, but I
mhm.
wasn't scared either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never scared. I've had experiences. I have also had experiences. And Bernadette, when you get into channeling, I am a psychic and I'm a clairvoyant. I'm a gifted clairvoyant. I
Mhm.
always say that it's a joke, and that's my conversation with God,
Yeah.
that I was walking on this path. These were
Mhm,
the gifts that were given to me. When the
mhm.
challenges arose, I asked you to help me and guide me.
Yeah.
You guided me through this clairvoyance, but the
Mhm.
collateral damage was you also brought in people on my path where I was meant to help them. So
Mm,
all this guiding everybody and extending my readings to people
mhm.
is collateral damage. It's a joke I have with my conversations with God.
Yeah.
And then I said, it took me a while to understand that every time I learn a lesson, there is somebody sent to me for guidance related to a similar thing. And I said,
Mm,
maybe this is how the universe wants it. And this
mm.
gave me my purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
The conversations then I could see. And then, obviously, like I said, when you get down to helping people, then this becomes a huge responsibility.
Mm,
And to be able to channel accurately meant you are a clean vessel, like you're a radio, right? Now, the
mhm.
radio has to be properly tuned to be able to catch the right frequencies.
Yeah.
And where are you catching them from?
Mm.
So, be able to experience what a low vibration is, a high vibration. These are things you can't be taught. I cannot tell you what a 220 volt and a 440 volt looks like. You have to feel
Yeah.
it.
Mhm, mhm.
I cannot tell you what love looks like. You have to feel it.
Yeah.
Compassion, kindness. So it's similar. I
Mhm.
can't tell you. So I went through, I think those were my training years by the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
Then when it felt, and then of course I got married.
Mhm.
India has a very patriarchal system. There was often a joke when I was growing up. My dad would say, you know what? You call black, black, white, white.
Mm,
And I think you need to learn a little bit of sugar coating. And I said, Daddy,
mm.
but why would I do that? Because we are born naive and, innocent and naive, like
Mhm. Mhm.
honest. And
Yeah.
then you are asking me to change myself. And
Mhm.
then when I grow up, when I'm in my 70s, I would go and kind of get into
Mm,
prayers and repent for my sins. So why am I complicating my life? I'm going to call black black and white white. Well, my
mhm.
daddy was right. It took me. It was a struggle.
Mm,
I got a lot of backfiring happened,
mhm. Mhm.
but I personally then again went back to those conversations with the universe, saying, "I'm
Mhm.
here for a reason. You gotta help me. I ain't calling black white."
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is me. I'm not going to complicate myself and then uncomplicate at age 70. Let's get this simple. Now, how do we do it is up to you.
Mhm.
So I remember then the signs started coming in. I started getting random emails. I started getting emails from nowhere. They were
Yeah.
unknown Yahoo Messenger email addresses.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
There was a very prominent, synchronicity that happened. I woke up and I heard being said, go and feed this hungry child. I was like, where am I going to
Mm,
find a hungry child here? And
Mhm.
I ignored it. The next day, my friend calls me up and says, I had a very weird dream, Shilpi. I said, what happened? She's back home in India, by the way. So what happened?
Mhm.
She said,
Mhm.
a child in the dream, a child is stopping my car and saying, where is Shilpi? Have you seen her? And when I ask why, he says, because she's meant to feed me.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, uh-oh.
Mhm.
Bernadette, I went and asked every single place of prayer I went,
Mhm.
spoke to the children, are you hungry?
Mhm.
None was hungry. So
Mm.
I remember standing on a crossroad that day and looking up and saying, what are you trying to tell me? And there I see on a massive billboard,
Mhm.
do not look for something that is not there.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
I came home. That was the answer to all my sadness at that moment coming from every single relationship,
Mm.
every single every single role that I was playing, daughter, husband, wife, daughter-in-law,
Mhm. Mhm.
all boiled down to I was expecting, say for example, kindness from somebody who's not capable of doing giving it for
Mm.
whatever reason. So that probably, that kind of just opened it up for me
Mhm.
that, okay, I am looked after, I'm being guided. Let's go on to
Mhm.
the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
And yeah, so it's so many. I mean, it's a life I've lived for 45 years. These experiences started when I was, of course, a child, but they became a two-way conversation when I was 19. So I've been channeling since 19. Um,
Mhm.
but again, like I said, it to be able to carry the responsibility of guiding others is huge. And that
Mhm.
meant that I have to be a clean vessel, a tuned radio. And
Mhm.
to be a clean vessel or a tuned radio means you go within,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
work on all that is kind of locked up deep down the Pandora's box,
Yeah.
all those sadness, hurt, grudges, forgiveness, unsaid, words,
Mhm.
trauma.
Mhm.
So kind of it's like peeling layers and so it's an interesting life. I keep cleaning the radio, and I keep getting requests for playing various channels, so I'm able to practice it as well. And
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
Over years I've added more channels.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. You mentioned that you channel. I know there are different types of channeling. Can you tell us what you mean by you channel and who and what do you channel?
So, now messages could come from various sources. Of course,
Mm.
you need to ensure that they're coming from the higher vibration. So you
Mhm.
connect to your to the higher vibration. Now, the messages could come from your guides, your angels, your
Mhm.
spirit guides, your
Mhm.
higher self,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
through my self or my guides connecting with yours. So
Mm.
and when you channel, it's various senses.
Mhm.
Clairvoyant is one, clairaudient. For me, it's everything. I sometimes smell, I sometimes hear, sometimes
Mhm.
I just see visions. So it's like, it's like anybody with years of practice. If you're running a business, you get better at it. If you're a podcaster, you get better at it.
Mhm.
I am just getting, I'd like to do it as my
Mhm.
purpose. I love this is my purpose, so I give it all of my heart and soul.
Yeah.
I would just say the universe is kind, so it kind of just keeps getting added on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it is meant to go, only the universe knows.
Mhm. Mhm. That's very true. Yeah. So I love that you're using the example of tuning in and then the radio. I've heard that example because if we're not on the same frequency, it's hard to pick up or hear. But the
Absolutely.
spirit world, it is so subtle that it's too subtle for me. We live in a in a loud world, and they're a bit quiet over there, in the spirit world. How can people tune into whoever's connecting to them from the other side?
Like I said, 22 years of practicing.
Mhm.
There are times I still, hesitate because somebody is depending on you for guidance. But,
Mm.
Bernadette, right from wanting to be a radio to be able to connect, there is just
Mhm.
one simple and as, paradoxical as it may be,
Mhm.
not so easy, just go within.
Mhm.
Because when you go within, you will tune yourself. You will fine tune yourself. And when you go within, is
Mhm.
where you meet what is lying as junk inside, which needs to be sorted. So it sounds easy, go within, but it's
Mhm.
a lot. So that's why when they say you need to be mindful, you need to meditate, most of
Mhm.
the people cannot do it because when you go, the world is running around to the malls on the weekends, they're going out socializing, nothing is
Mhm.
wrong, but to constantly keep busy is a way of avoiding to sit down with yourself, because the moment you sit down with yourself is when what comes up, what's buried under the carpet.
Mm. Yeah.
And once you've done that slowly, and it's not like it takes 22 years, once you're in connection with your deep self,
Mhm.
that's where you will connect with your higher self.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
the world inside is not loud, Bernadette. It's outside. And,
Mm.
that's why I say it's such a paradoxical existence where I can go anytime, no matter how chaotic it is, and how, between thousands of people, sitting, but I would just go within. And it's a
Mm.
silent word there. It's beautiful. It's
Mm.
peaceful. It's
Yeah.
you can see compassion for everybody there. So it's
Mhm.
all about getting in touch with your inner self. It's your inner self. It's we all have that inner GPS. Nobody
Mhm.
tells the birds when to make the nests. I have a beautiful nest that's come up in my garden. It's right next to a potted plant. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh wow, you left the trees and you decided to put it right next to where I can see, where I work every day, you
Mhm.
know and I read, sit down, and I was seeing right 2 days before laying the egg, the nest was mastered to perfection, not years ago, not weeks ago, not days ago,
Mhm.
just at the right time.
Mhm.
Came in at one egg yesterday, came in another egg yesterday, and wow. And once it's done, the kids are grown up, it's going to go. So,
Mm.
they just know when.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
that's animals and birds.
Yeah.
We have reached the moon. So we should be utilizing this way more than anything else.
Mhm.
And a lot of people have. A lot of famous, artists, famous musicians. It
Mhm.
is there, when the pieces become that famous that they touch your soul, it's
Mm.
it's coming from within.
Yeah.
It's not coming from that outwardly source.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Have you met any of your guides?
They keep changing. I have to see my first one in an X-ray machine in the medical college,
Mhm.
and the moment I spotted him, the machine burnt because it's a higher vibration. We all know it,
Mhm.
and but I have yes, I have seen a few of them. Yes. I
Mhm.
hear from them all the time, of course, because my life is all lived on guidance constantly.
Yeah.
It's, unfortunately, um, it's the layer peeling is reached a stage where the worldly, help cannot help me because
Mhm.
you need to take certain steps to be able to, kind of just be focused on that highway, which is
Yeah.
working on yourself constantly, which requires a lot of forgiveness and compassion.
Mhm.
Because you may forgive, but uh, when it comes time to people who really hurt you, if you are not able to, I always tell everybody when I do mentor a lot of people on this journey, and I say it's forgiveness doesn't end when you say I forgive you. It doesn't even end when the person doesn't trigger you. It
Yeah.
ends when you are able to look at that person with compassion and say, bless you. Because you're suffering as much as anybody else is. You wouldn't hurt me
Mm-hmm.
in knowingly. You are a product of your life. I'm a product of my life. At
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, we are that inner source light. So
Yeah.
all is good here. Let's
Mm-hmm.
disconnect, not create more karmic issues that I have you another time in my lifetime, next lifetime as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's sort it out here and bless you. I let go of you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to another one then.
Yeah. 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 Thank you for
So
sharing.
it, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a constant work. It's not something that has an end to it.
Yeah.
And the day you start is the right time. It's never too late either.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen some of your past lives?
I have had to take help from a friend. See, I personally feel unless you really you're not able to resolve certain, issues that are
Mm-hmm.
coming up and you've worked on them a lot
Mm-hmm.
and you need to really look into it, that's when you should do this. So I did a couple of hypnotherapy sessions where I basically, a lot of things from childhood came up, which I resolved, like my fear of darkness. I knew where it came from, so you were able to kind of go past it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a joke within my mind, within myself, with my guides, that I'm not scared of the souls, the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
I send me anywhere, I'm not scared, but I'm scared of dark. Can you believe?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's coming from this lifetime. So I've sorted that out. Then I
Mm-hmm.
had to sort a few things where I wanted to understand, why am I dealing with certain karmic issues with certain relationships in the present life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to do that. Once I did
Yeah.
that, it gave me a different perspective
Mm-hmm.
uh, to where this is coming from. Again, why it happened, you can't really help it, but
Mm-hmm.
that basically got me back on the track where I said, I am paying back what I did to them in that lifetime, but how I can change this now is not to take it further. So, all right, I am sorry for whatever I did to you. I forgive you for what you're doing to me. It is not going to go further than this. We go on our paths.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's where I use these modalities. I don't like to
Mm-hmm.
keep going into it because, again, we
Mm.
have that inner GPS. If we are tuned in well enough, you don't need to go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep going to it because
That's
I
fine.
think I carried so much from different lifetimes to this one that is either preventing me from really accessing my gifts or following my soul path. And I know I'm not alone. There are so many people
Oh,
who are
absolutely.
going through the same. So, how do you help your clients? Let's say I'm one of your clients. What would you look into and how would you be able to help?
See now, Bernadette, again, over years, it's gone. I hope I'm pronouncing your name
It's
right. It's
okay. It's all right.
I think I'm just kind of breaking the syllables up, but again.
No worries.
So yeah, my apologies for that.
It's okay.
Again, it's a wide range of it's progressed over years. So
Mhm,
it's as simple as, I have these few pictures, you know, for the possible matrimonial matches that I have. Could you
mhm,
please look into it? Now, all my guidance is based on, I'm not making decisions for you because I'm not going to be a part of your karmic. I don't want
mm,
any karmic connections with you. You
yeah,
decide, I will just tell you what I'm getting. The
mm,
choice has to be made by you, because another 5 years down the line, I don't want you to be thinking, oh, I wish I had not done what Shilpi had said, or I wish. So please don't remember me that time and pull me into a karmic connection.
yeah,
You
yeah,
and the whole idea of these, facilities for
mhm,
people from people like me is to empower you.
mhm,
Anybody, not take away your power and say this is going to happen. So if you don't do
mhm,
what this is, it's
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So there are people who I Shilpi, you said this, but I took the other path, and now this is what has happened. No worries, there's no
mhm,
judgment. I'm glad you took the other path. Now let's see what can be done about it. How do we help ourselves so that we do not go back into the same pattern? It
yeah,
takes yeah, lifetimes, like you said. So there's
Mhm,
no judgment here. I myself have a human life. I have human
mhm.
struggles, and I, I another joke. It's like for something very very simple, something that could have should have come to me very easily. I have literally banged my head on the wall numerous times, but when it had to fall in place, that's when the realization comes in. There's always a time for it.
Mhm,
Sometimes we
mhm,
are not ready for it. So, too matrimonial to something as simple as I'm stuck in a particular pattern right now, or I do not know where things are going, or
mhm,
relationship issues, to, and even, again, uh,
mm.
relationship, there could be genuine issues, but I personally feel that everything around you shifts when you shift yourself within.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I can only help you. I cannot change the other person. So
Mhm,
if you're willing to do the self work, then I mentor people. I bring
mhm,
them in alignment with the universe, with their soul's purpose.
mhm,
It's not an easy job. You work on yourself, but I
mhm.
use these gifts to bring out, because when you come to me, you wouldn't even know what's holding that energetic imprint in your past. So I bring out those with the help of my guides, your guides,
Yeah.
and so it's almost like, could you tell me what happened at 16?
Mm.
And you're like, oh, and sometimes all that is required is validation,
Mm,
acknowledgement, or even, all right, it happened, but I don't have to be ashamed of it. And that's it. And
mm.
things just turn around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, I
that's
agree.
how powerful energy is, right? You
Mhm,
walk into the room and you're like, oh, whoa, 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 I don't want to meet this person. Or I just feel connected. I don't know
mhm,
why.
mhm.
It's like those nanoseconds.
Yeah, yeah, I
It's not
agree.
a massive shift. It's a
Mhm,
simple shift, but it's timeless.
mm.
I
Yeah,
think boundless.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, how do you practice mindfulness every day?
Um, it keeps shifting, but
Mhm,
mindfulness, again, could be as simple as when I am into it, like when I was sitting down and you were like, I was taking deep breaths and you were like, are you anxious? So I said, no, I'm grounding myself because I
mm.
want to be in this moment.
Yeah,
So for
yeah.
me, as a psychic, to be able to channel, I have to be mindful, because if I'm not
Mhm,
grounded and mindful, like you said, I wouldn't know whether this is my mind playing tricks, or these are messages.
mhm. Yeah.
So I do a lot of things. For me, the easiest way to be mindful is swimming,
Mm,
because you're like ears blocked, cannot hear anything from
mm,
outside. It's like measured breath, and you're kind of in your it's another world. It's another world.
mhm, mhm,
So I of course don't I back float,
mm,
and I have my conversations with God there, because I feel
mhm.
it's such a quick connection to have. Like it just kind of I can feel the connection very quick.
Yeah.
I do maintain a very, very disciplined life. Again, you need to have a healthy body, because the soul
Mm,
is going to go lifetimes, but
yeah.
the body needs to be able to handle the
Mhm,
frequency and the
mhm.
vibrations of. So as I go higher, my body needs to get tuned. So a lot
Yeah,
of nature,
yeah.
lot of nature walk, lot of spending. I do not really socialize. So I do not go out for coffee mornings.
Mm,
I like to, I love to sit in the garden. Like I said, the nest.
mhm.
I like to observe nature. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. There are so many lessons that you can learn from nature. We
Mhm,
spend life, like years saving for a house, then we build
mm.
house, then we save money, and
Yeah.
that house, all it requires is to basically, you need that house like birds only for, I don't know how. It was a very beautiful realization today that the bird
Mm,
uses the house only to rear its young ones, and then it flies and trusts the universe to give it a house, and there's
mhm.
plenty of space in the world. So
Yeah,
why are we stuck to the material possessions once we've raised our younger ones? So I was like today, all right,
yeah.
once my kids are grown up, I'm going to be a bird. I'm going to travel the world, and I'm going to, the universe is going to look after me, spread kindness, help people. Why,
Mhm.
worry about,
Yeah.
all my life. So that's another thing I do. I love spending time with young kids, like
Yeah.
the toddlers. I love
Mhm.
spending time with animals because, again, no malice, no judgment, pure love, pure
Mhm.
joy,
Yeah.
absolute pure joy.
Yeah.
Um, Human beings, to be honest with you, are difficult to deal with. Lot of
Tell me
manipulation.
about it.
So I like
Yep.
to maintain my distance
Yeah.
because I ain't calling black white. I don't want to lie, and I used to land myself in trouble for speaking the truth. So
Yeah.
I like to be the weird one out. I've got kids. I'm very mindful because I
Mhm.
personally feel that my gifts were brought to this level so that I could bring these souls, these evolved souls into the world and be able to give
Yeah.
them that space to nurture. And they are, I see very evolved, my children. So
Mhm.
I think every time I've got pregnant with both of my kids, I had a miscarriage in between. I felt that there was a huge shift in me, and
Mhm.
that was required to be able to bear these kids and bring these souls into the world and nurture them. So that's, of course, my prime focus. We do a lot of dancing,
Mm.
just having fun, lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
hugs,
Mhm.
just spending time together. Just,
Yeah.
I do not really on the weekends, we are home, cuddling,
Mhm.
reading, just doing nothing. Because
Mhm.
I personally feel we have lost the art of doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's mindfulness. That's where you connect with your inner self.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, very true. Yeah. Yeah.
So not
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. I
Okay.
mean, it keeps evolving. But
Mhm. Mhm.
in short, this is what I do.
Yeah, I love it.
My
I love what you do. Yeah. Yeah, what do you want people to get out of this episode?
um, just go within. Everything, every single answer. I mean, if it was one sentence, I would just say every single problem that you're facing, the answer is not outside. Stop looking outside. It took me
Mm.
years to see that message on that billboard.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
go within.
Mhm.
You will find there's an entire beautiful universe out there. The
Mhm.
love that you're seeking outside, it's
Mm.
inside. The
Mhm.
guidance that you're seeking outside is inside. The peace,
Mhm.
kindness, the compassion, it's all within you.
Mhm.
And nobody is trust me, I was just trying to pen it down on my Instagram today. I channel messages and write it down. I don't really like to copy anything. The other
Mhm.
day, my social media manager was like, why don't you use chat gpt to generate quotes? I was like, but then
Mm.
that's chat gpt. So every day in the morning when I've done my mindfulness, my affirmations, I channel what I'm getting and I put it into quotes, or just as a
Mm.
post, because
Yeah.
I know if it's resonating, if it's guidance for me, it's going to resonate with many of the people out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's tomorrow, this is the one that's coming. You are your best lover, you're your best friend, you're your best mother, you're the
Mm.
best father that you're looking out for, you're the best child that you're looking out for. All of this is within you, because
Mhm.
nobody else, only you know what you like. You may have the most romantic partner in the world, but probably he brings you a red rose, but that day you wanted a white rose. So you know what you want within you.
Yeah.
Bring yourself that white rose and spare the poor guy some hassle and some arguments and just stay happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I think we're coming close to the end of the episode. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about quickly?
I think we've covered practically everything. We've talked
Mhm.
about the books. There's an Indian author called Rusbe Barucha. If you want to read his books, I like his book specifically called Fakir because
Mm.
that's a conversation. I mean, it's a channeled conversation between an invisible guide and his mentee,
Oh.
who obviously does, he's the only one who can see the invisible guide on the other side. So his spirit
Mhm.
guide.
Oh, wow.
And so the conversations are all about how the spirit guide guides him across navigating relationships, issues in life, the lessons
Mhm.
we are learning, the challenges we humans are going through. So
Yeah.
it's a beautifully written book in the form of a story. So if you get it, if you are in touch on the other side, you would know what it is.
Mm. Yeah.
There's another beautiful book called Your Soul's Plan by Dr. Robert Schwartz. It's also
Mm.
about why you have certain challenges as a why do you take up certain challenges as a soul in this lifetime, what lessons we
Yeah.
learn out of it. So that's another way of it beautifully puts across as no one of none of us is a victim.
Mm. Yeah.
It's a journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes.
the
Yeah.
books, the podcasts, there are beautiful ones out there. It's a beautiful world out there now that everything is online. There's so much
Mhm.
we can work on and kind of
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
learn.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I have 2 questions for you as we wrap up. The first one is, what is the meaning of life for you?
Complete surrender and complete flow. I mean, for me, this is life.
Mhm.
It's, of course, for me, life is going within with a
Yeah.
and that's me discovering the inner me. And when I
Mhm.
exist in the world as a person,
Yeah.
of course, with the self-love that you've generated, it's overflowing. So the compassion radiates, the kindness radiates. But at the
Mhm.
same time, as a human, life for me is beautiful. It's
Yeah.
magical. It's
Mhm.
bliss. You need to know where to find how to find that bliss.
Yeah.
It's chaos. It's chaotic. It's very paradoxical. It's chaotic,
Mm.
yet it's calm. It's
Yeah.
crazy, yet it's blissful. But
Mhm.
it's definitely magical with the abilities you have. We all know it. Once you're able to tap in,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
it's beautiful. I mean, in
Mhm.
short, life is beautiful.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Yeah, thank you for sharing. My last question for you is, where can people connect with you, work with you, and check out what you're doing?
So my Instagram handle is awakening with Shilpi.
Okay.
Same as for Facebook. And
Mhm.
I have a website, www.awakeningwithshilpi.com.
Mhm.
And if nothing else, if you're listening to the podcast and you haven't even reached this stage, if you're meant to connect with me,
Mhm.
we will, the paths will cross anyway, like our paths have crossed.
Yeah. 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 Mhm. Excuse me. It's so dry.
Sorry about
It's
that.
dry where I am. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Shilpi, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all you do. Keep
Thank
spreading love and sharing your gifts with the world.
Thank you so, so much. Thank you for having me. And I hope kind of, you are able to
Yeah.
lift those layers. And it's a beautiful word. And I'm sure if you
Yeah.
have these gifts, they are meant to go somewhere.
Yeah. 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 It's a puzzle I'll continue to put together throughout
Don't
the
worry. If
journey.
the time is right, Bernadette, I'm telling you, it's just that one piece. And then you're like, oh, wow, it took me all these years to just figure
Yeah.
this out.
Yeah.
That's life as well.
Yeah.
So I think you're well taken care of. When the time is right, it'll all just kind of flow in.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you so, so much for
You're
having me.
welcome.